Okay, and on a scale, you have your heart, and then on the other side of the scale, you have your brain. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Private Label Masters YouTube channel. You know what's going on. We have the reverse flu game 12s hovering in the back, just making a quick cameo appearance in this video to set the tone. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Tim. I've been selling on Amazon close to 5 years now. I do over $20 million in gross revenue on Amazon and looking to continue to increase. Now, the reason this channel is here is to help you not be an average Amazon seller, but learn how to be a master Amazon seller by implementing what you see here, all right? So in today's video, we're going to talk about emotional decision making, all right? Emotional decision making. Now, this is a trap that many entrepreneurs and specifically Amazon sellers fall into. We're going to talk about like what are the dangers of it, and also more importantly, what are some solutions if you find yourself like making a lot of emotional decisions, all right? Now, the reason we want to talk about this topic is because as an entrepreneur, all we do is make decisions. Who, what, when, where, how, and then we get to doing those decisions, right? Now, our decisions have a very long-lasting impact, a lot of them. Now, some decisions, like, should I buy this t-shirt? I don't know, you buy it, it didn't fit, I can return it, right? That's a small decision. It's not going to have much impact in your life. But other decisions, like when you think of an Amazon business, should I go for this product, right? That can have a huge impact, not just now, but in the future. Also, sometimes some decisions may not seem like they have that big of an impact, but a slight change in angle, mapped out, like trajected out like 3 years, can be a huge difference on where you would land. Sometimes that has to do with like who I'm going to hire or what business decision should I say yes or no to. Now, when it comes to emotions are so powerful. And emotions are such a gift, all right? For those who have the ability to really feel, it is such a gift, all right? And when we think about words such as passion, right? Motivation, a lot of these things are fueled by our emotions. When you wake up and you're excited for the day, it's not a mathematical equation. It's a feeling that you have. It's your emotions, right? When you're around your friends, when you're laughing, when you're having a good time, when you're really enjoying something, it's your emotions that are really playing such a role in that. Also, people who are more in tune with their emotions, a lot of times they're more empathetic towards others. They can understand what others are doing. And many times they end up being like some of the best leaders because they're able to connect really well with those who work for them. And there's some professions where being highly emotional really help, such as motivational speakers, right? Imagine, if you've ever seen some TED Talks, like a lot of the best TED Talks are people who go up there with some fire. And even if they're not the most like loud and gregarious type person, but if you can really feel that what they are talking about, they believe in, you're going to tune in a little bit closer. But now in some businesses, right, such as Amazon, being an emotional person can be a detriment, especially when it comes to emotional decision making, what we're talking about. Now, emotions can often lead to rash decisions that aren't well thought out, and also very reactionary type decision making. What are some emotions that might do this? All right. Fear, greed, sentiment. These are just a couple. And we're going to talk about how like the far reaching effects that when we make decisions based on those type of emotions alone, what can happen. Now, one profession that it's super important not to be an emotional decision maker is when it comes to the stock market. They have a saying, never marry a stock, right? Because when you marry a stock, you're attached to it forever. You can't see the negative, and you're always overly optimistic. You have this strong sentimentality towards it, and you can't let it go. And a lot of times, those are the ones who lose the most money. Whereas those who can follow a strategic plan. And regardless of the ups and downs of the market, they can stick to their plan, whether it's dollar cost averaging or whatever it is, whether it's just buy and hold for the long term and they don't, monitor it every 5 seconds. Those are the ones who end up winning. Now, how have I seen emotions play when it comes to, or emotional decision making come into play when it comes to being an Amazon seller? Let's talk about those 3 that I mentioned. All right. First one is fear. Now, we're going to talk about whether you're a brand new seller or a more advanced seller and where you might be able to apply some of this framework. Okay. So when it comes to fear, one specific area that I've seen is when it comes to PPC. Now, PPC is, which is Amazon advertising. If for those who aren't aware of that, it's really like feels very complex at the beginning. All right. You got to figure out what type of campaigns, what keywords to target, what your bids should be, what your budget should be, how you go about optimizing, when you go about optimizing, all these different things. And especially where I see fear come up is when new sellers first start their Amazon PPC campaigns. All right. You have to run PPC because you're on page 5,000 when you first come to Amazon, and no one's going to see you unless you pay some advertising, which allows you to ethically pay to have your product at the top of search. Okay. But when it comes to PPC, how it works is you have to try a whole bunch of things to be able to narrow down on the things that work. And so what that looks like in almost every case is a loss of money. All right. And going in the red and a high ACoS. Now, ACoS is just a measurement when it comes to your PPC based on how much you're paying for a sale. All right. Now, what I see too many times is people will set up their campaigns, they'll turn it on, and guess what? They see a high ACoS, they see a lot of red, and they just lose it. They think the world's ending. They don't know what to do. They think this whole business model is not working, when in fact, this is just part of the process that you have to go through. And that really is finding out what doesn't work in order to find out what does work so you can scale up what does work, okay? So how does fear come to play? Well, when fear happens, they lose their mind. They start turning off campaigns. They start changing keyword budgets just out of the blue. They start adding all these negative keywords when it's only literally been 3 days, okay? 3 days. Now, talking from somebody who is an avid Amazon seller who's been around for a while, I will tell you it can take months to hone in your PPC campaigns, all right? So thinking that you're going to start your PPC campaign and within 3 days, everything's going to look perfect, you're going to be a millionaire overnight, it's just not realistic, okay? Now, another time where I see fear come into play in emotional decision making because of it is when it comes to simple things, even such as price changes. You'd be surprised how many people are afraid to adjust their price even $1 because of what could happen. Oh my gosh. And because of that, they actually do not make any changes. All right. That fear, just like that's their decision making, is no decisions. And then sometimes they're like, you know what, I'll venture out of my fear box, my fear bubble. And they change their price maybe by $1 up. And then it's like on a Friday, they change it. And then mid-Saturday, they're like every hour looking, did I get a sale? Did I get a sale? Did I get a sale? I didn't get a sale. I got to change the price back. Oh my gosh. I see this happen all the time. Whereas realistically, you can't tell what a price change is going to do until you have several days. You need a sample size, a legitimate amount of people coming there, right? Plus, if you change your price on a Friday and then Saturday is the price change, buying in most products is totally different on a weekend versus a weekday, right? Versus if there's all sorts of other things happening, all right? So that's fear and how it can affect how you make decisions as an Amazon seller. Now, if I were to show you those 2 examples of somebody who is not allowing emotions and things such as fear to play a role in how they make it, it would look like this. PPC. What am I taught? I follow the structure on how to set these things up. What are my expectations? Well, what I've been told is that it's not going to be profitable at the beginning and you're going to be in the red. And it can take sometimes up to a couple months to hone your PPC campaigns in. So after 3 days, what do I see? I see some red. I see that I'm actually having some losses. How do I react? Well, I don't react at all because I know this is part of the game, because that's what I've learned. That's what I've been taught. In regards to price changes, right? Price changes, I set my price. I look at it the next day. No new sales have happened. How do I react? I need to give it more time, and I go on throughout my day. Now, we're going to touch on a little bit later, like how to actually do this, because it just sounds like, hey, Tim, I can't just like flip a switch like that. I'm not you, man. And we'll talk about like a couple like practical things that can really help this. Now, another emotion that can like make you make terrible rash decisions is greed. All right. And how does it come into play with an Amazon seller? Well, so many Amazon sellers, they're like, wow, they see everybody else making all these sales. They see everybody else, making money, and they think like the game is leaving them. And so because of that, they're like, I have to be like on a sprint in order to make sure my product comes to market as fast as possible. And so you know what they do? They do things like they skip the inspections, because the inspections are gonna, take an extra week. They ship it wrong. They're like, I just want to get it there. I just want to sell on Amazon. So they do air shipping, which takes out all the profit. Or another one that I see all too often is they just go too big, right? They go too big. They like spend all the money they own, and they don't even know how or what they're doing. And next thing you know, all of the actual parts of being an Amazon seller start coming into play, and they just start crumbling and falling apart. That's why I've always recommend just going after like one product, a small, nice single, right? That's not going to take all your money. Learn the process, and then you get the knowledge and the experience and the confidence to go bigger. But that's what greed does. And I would have to tell you that I am not immune to these emotions. In fact, every single one of these things I've talked about, I have had to deal with, and I still deal with from time to time. We're going to touch on like how I am able to manage those things. But I have skipped an inspection because I was feeling a little greedy and said, I just got to get it there so I don't run out of stock. You know what? That emotional decision making made me lose tens of thousands of dollars. And I've made other ones like that. And thankfully, I've been able to help so many students try to avoid some of those things by our Private Label Masters program, which I talk about. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. How do I know not to do this? Because I did those things, okay? So what you actually want to know, though, is how do we navigate this? How do we avoid making emotional decisions, all right? If you find yourself like really on that emotional end, are you just out of luck? SOL, too bad. That's just who I am. I'm not going to be a good Amazon entrepreneur. No, but it is good to realize that making long-lasting change when it comes to our habits, which comes to our way of being, it is hard. It's going to take a lot of work, and you're going to mess up. But as long as you keep trying, you can get there. All right. So let's get into what's going to help you to be less of an emotional decision maker, right? We're going to talk about a few different tips and techniques here. The first one comes from a therapy that's called DBT, or dialectical behavioral therapy, and this has to do with relationships and all these different types of things, but it has a key role when it comes to making emotional decisions. All right, so you're going to see here on the screen one circle, right? This circle is the emotional mind, right? You can almost like think of it like a scale, okay? And on a scale, you have your heart, and then on the other side of the scale, you have your brain, okay? And it's about balancing these two things. And you've heard sayings like, just follow your heart. Well, your heart will lead you off a cliff and be like, okay, how'd that work out, right? And if you only do things with your brain, then you don't take anybody else into consideration a lot of times. And that people element and the empathy is just missing. So it's really a balance here, right? So again, we have the one circle, right? And we would call this like the emotional mind, right? And this is where, all your emotional feelings, quick decisions, these different emotions that we've talked about, and also positive emotions would all go in here. Passion, blah, blah, different ones. And then we have the other circle, right? On the other side. And this is more like your rational mind, your analytical mind. This is like really like doing your due diligence, checking out the numbers, doing the research, taking some time and really doing some critical thinking about the decision making. Now, ideally, you're not on either one of these spectrums. And for this video, we're talking about the emotional mind because that's really where I see people go. You know, if someone's more on the rational mind, typically they're still going to do really well at Amazon. But if someone's really on the emotional mind, that's when people are going to like be shipwrecked and quickly, right? So that's what we're going to mainly touch on here. So what we want to do is not to just cut off all emotions. No, we want to see where these two circles intersect. And where they intersect, we call that the wise mind, right? This is one that's taking, yes, emotions into context, but also really having that rational mind taken into context, right? So some of the things, like if you find yourself like way over here, if you're finding yourself emotionally reacting, like how do you know? It's because you can get a feeling. You'll just know, like my emotions are stirring, they're brewing, right? And they're coming to a head. And so if you start feeling these types of things, it could be anxiety, it could be worry, it could be fear, it could be greed, like all these things you can feel like within. That is like a little snapshot that you are way over on this end, right? You're way over on the emotional mind, and you need to bring it back in, especially if you're going to make some good decisions. In fact, I recommend to try not to make any long-lasting decisions when you are over in this side. Now, some of the things I might recommend is taking a walk, trying to take some things that will help, do some activities that will help you take your mind off whatever decision or what's happening. But I know sometimes these things are just so weighty and it's like it feels impossible, right? There's no way to distract myself, okay? And that's totally fine. So here are a couple things. You're an Amazon seller, situation comes up, and you're feeling these strong emotions, right? Whether it's fear, whether it's greed, whether it's anxiety, whether it's sentiment, right? You just like can't give up on this product. You're just so in love with it and you just keep going back and going back, even though it's not, even though you know you should be, it's like someone with their ex-boyfriend or something. They just keep going back and you're like, the guy's a loser. What are you doing? And they just keep going back, right? It's the same type of concept. So what are some steps you can do to kind of drag yourself, pull yourself, push yourself over to more of the rational side so you can get in that wise mind? First off, if you're an Amazon seller and you're facing a decision and you feel some kind of emotions coming in, ask other successful sellers. So I see this happen all the time in our student group is students will bring up a question and you can just hear, the emotion is like oozing out of their post, okay? And it's great to see that they're at least coming to the group to ask other successful sellers instead of just going off and making some quick rash decision, right? That's the first thing you can do. Is ask, but then also listen. A lot of times when we're in an emotional mindset, we're going to ask our question, but we want a certain answer to make us feel a certain way, to like say yes, that cognitive bias that's going to get us to keep going on that track that we're going on. But no, you need to stop and listen to what these other successful sellers say, okay? Number two is ask the mentor, right? So for our students, I go live every single Tuesday for over 2 hours, and that is an excellent place to ask me any of those types of questions. Hey, Tim, here's a situation. I think I might miss this. I might go out of stock if I don't do this. If I skip the inspection, I won't go out of stock. What do you think? Hey, Tim, should I go after this product? I see it. Bring those questions to me. I can help bring a rational mind who has a lot of experience to the fore to help you avoid disaster a lot of times, right? And what's the third one? And the third one is go back to the basics, all right? What are the basics? It's like, what have you been taught, all right? So for students in our program, it's like go back to the course, review some of those videos and see like, what did it say about PPC? What are the expectations? Have I set it up right? Okay, cool. I'm still feeling something. Let me ask the other sellers. I'm still feeling something. Let me ask Tim. And you will see after you do all of those steps, instead of making that quick rash decision based on emotion, once you make all of those steps, you will come to that wise mind, or as close as you can to it, to be able to make the correct decision. And a lot of times the correct decision might not be any decision at all. So in review, emotional decision making as an Amazon seller will get you in trouble. It will sink your ship, all right? I see it happen all the time. Emotions are great. And there's some professions where emotions are super important because emotions are what makes people really empathetic, can help them feel, and they are a gift. However, we need to be able to balance out those emotions with rational thinking, all right? And when we bring those two things together and we can be right in the middle, we can have that wise mind. And we talked about a few different ways that if you feel it, because a lot of times we're like, I'm not being emotional, but do you feel it inside? Are you feeling some rumbling? And that could be an excitement, that could be like a scare, that could be a fear, that could be a worry, that could be a greedy. All of those things you're going to feel inside. Like you legit can feel those things. That's your cue. Hey, I'm feeling way on this emotional end. I need to rein it in. How can I do this? Simple. If you're an Amazon seller and you're facing an Amazon decision, ask successful Amazon sellers and then listen. Don't just look for the answer that you want. Listen to what they're all saying. Ask your mentor, right? For our students, that means asking me a question in the live stream. If you can't make the live stream, you can ask one of our team members, and they'll bring your question to the live stream so you can see the replay. Number 3, go back to the basics. Where did you learn, right? For our students, it's the program. Go back to the program. What did it say specifically? Are you following it specifically? What are the expectations that it said? And are those being met? Now, again, don't let this video just be like, oh, that was interesting. Allow this video to help you become not an average Amazon seller, but a master seller. We talk a lot about mindset. In fact, mindset, what goes on between your 2 ears, is what's really going to separate the average seller and the master seller. We love these topics in the Private Label Masters program. If you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in working with me and my team and hundreds of other successful sellers, there's always a link down in the description. You guys, I appreciate it. How about those reverse flu game 12s cooking in the back? I'm going to get another nice shoe for the next video. We'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.